going to go to.
Hey everybody, it's Mark from City Creek Bottoms Farmstead Life with another fireside chat. Today I have Miss Stacy. A lot of y'all know her from meeting her at Hollands, Kamuga Grist Mill. She's been on the last 3-4 outings. Let's see,
Yes.
3 times at Hollands, right?
Yes.
And
twice at Kamuga.
Twice at Kamuga. So she's had some unique things happen, and she wanted to tell about it, and I appreciate her being willing to tell it on me and Rebecca's channel. And y'all have to forgive me. I know Miss Stacy's probably going a little more and takes a shower. I've been outside working all day, but I went and changed shirts and a hat just where I look presentable. And if you hear racket going in the background, it's just part of it. So we been building stuff for goats today and dog pens, and so everything's a little out of whack today. So, but I'm glad you decided to be willing to share. Oh, you see, he's fine. Don't worry about that. Willing to share what you and Brian has been there at some of this stuff too, which I know he had to leave today for work, but know if he's kind of had some little things that he kind of questioned too. So
yes, it's made him more of a believer.
And everybody, this is Sunshine. So everything, which a lot of y'all have met Sunshine at the meet and greets and stuff. So
she's my little sidekick.
Well, do you want to start with what happened here a few weeks ago, or do you want to go back to the first time you went to Hollands and just kind of let it be, or what would you rather do?
Probably the first time.
Okay, let's go ahead. And so you just however you want to start it off, and then I'll help you go.
Okay. Okay. Actually, after everybody left, it's when had a few things happen. We did not have much happen up there where our camper was. It seemed to have been more towards the gate area, correct?
Yeah,
as far
kind
as
of, yeah.
Everything happening. Then after everybody left, of course, you were there. We all spent that Sunday night, and we were all, Mark had built us a fire. We were all around the fire. And most of you have heard this part on Mark's channel in the past, but we were all sitting around the fire. Rebecca had already gone to bed, and the camper light, your outdoor camper light was
outside
on.
Camper lights, yeah.
And I was just sitting kind of looking at the camper the way I was facing.
Okay.
Huge shadow just moved really fast. And it just, I don't know if it went across or if it just peeked out.
Don't worry about that. I don't know what's going on there.
If it just peeked out, and I told Mark I thought I saw a shadow. Well, he said, if there's something over there, Sister will start barking. You didn't get that out of your mouth no sooner than Sister just started raising Cain inside the camper. So that was the first thing. Well, also later that night, there was a very, very strong odor coming in our camper window that night that I'd say kind of smelled cross between cow pasture, and I really can't explain what the smell was. It was just something I'd never smelled before, and that was pretty much. I won't tell Brian's part what happened as we were leaving because that's his detail.
Okay, that's fine.
So, but he did see something as we were leaving.
Lord, everything in the world wants to pop up.
It is. And then the next time we went down there.
But the first time was the actual meet and greet.
Yes, that was the meet and greet.
The back in October.
Right.
When this took place. And also, that's when Kathy and Garrett
Yes.
Caught something on the night vision over by my truck by the
Yes.
camera. Kathy was looking through that. Okay.
Actually, Kathy saw that on night vision by your truck, just not even 5 minutes before
You seen the shadow. Right.
So it all added up together that there was something over there.
Right.
And that's really all that happened that trip.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
I
wanted to throw that in because I knew that's part of it.
Right. It is. The next time, as he just mentioned, Kathy and Garrett and me and my husband decided to go down there the week of between Christmas and New Year's.
Oh, go on, Misty. Stirring sunshine up. Go on now.
And we didn't really have a lot happen. We did. We did.
These animals or something else.
We did find a very huge trail through the woods over there. What's that little area that Patton?
Oh, down there in the very bottom.
Right.
Yes,
and that Pat
Rance and Pat and Joe and Fight Rot and all them.
Yes. While we were there, and it had a lot of broken limbs, but the really thing that was unique to me was probably about maybe 10, 15 foot into the wood line, there was a huge wallered out place right in the middle of the trail. Like something had just been sitting there and just because it was down all the way wallered out down to mud.
Mm.
And right there also, I mean, on that trail were limb breaks that were okay. My husband's 6'1", he could barely touch it with the end of his fingertips.
Interesting. So a tall boy trail.
Yes.
What we call them, tall boy trails.
Okay, I didn't know.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but kind of back you up what you're saying there. I mean,
right.
A lot of times you can go in the woods in certain places, especially around roads, and that was right there close to a road.
Yeah, right.
A lot of times we'll find these trails. A lot of them are run parallel with a road. They'll be 30, 40 foot off the road. And there's other people can back me up on this that's witnessed the same thing. Sometimes you can get in this spot and you can just look down through there. And it's just like somebody went down through there with a pair of clippers, clipping all the limbs off. All the way down through there. And I mean, you can walk a long way down through there sometimes without touching one limb. And like you saying, Brian could barely touch him. So if he's 6'1", I'm 6'1" too. And so that put it in the 8 foot range.
Absolutely.
Easily. So that's definitely sounds like a tall boy trail. And they're up on Creepy Mountain too. I found them up there, and I found them in some other places. They're very noticeable. Once you get to looking at them, you can tell something done went down through there. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say my theory was maybe something had was sitting back behind there at the meet and greet,
watching people
because it, like you said, it's perfect exit. The road was probably another. I'd say it probably wasn't 50 to 75 feet from where the wood line opened. You walked into the wood line to the actual road, the main road,
right.
And easy exit for it. If they got caught somehow or whatnot, that's what I was thinking. It was an easy exit for whatever was there watching.
Good escape route.
Yes.
Get right back across that road. And I don't know if people notice when they come out of that campground, there's a trail straight across the road. That sucker's that wide. Now, I don't know if it's people walking and going across, going down there to use the bathroom. But I've been wanting to go down there one of these days and get on that trail and see where it goes to, which I'll preferably probably wait till fall. I don't know if I want to step on a rattlesnake right now.
No, and they're crawling really bad this year.
They're bad. So I'm sorry. Let me go ahead. You go ahead and finish about y'all's second time down there with Kathy and Garrett.
I think it was our last night there, and everybody had gone to bed. I'm really bad to stay up just turn all the lights out and play on my tablet, and while everybody else goes to sleep. And that's what I done. It was probably maybe 11:30, 12 o'clock, somewhere in that time range. All of a sudden, well, let me back up. We had heard some coyotes earlier that night. That's the first time we had heard them the entire trip, that we had been down there from Wednesday to Sunday. And then, you know, they were kind of off in the distance. They were not close. Well, I was laying there just playing on my tablet, and all of a sudden I heard the coyotes just, I mean, it sounded like a huge pack start yipping. And from where our camper was, it sounded like the coyotes were on this side of the road yipping. Then all of a sudden on this side, you know, when you start up the hill, once you start in,
Right.
you know that little hollow right in there?
Yeah, off to the left.
No,
Or
off to the right
To the
as
right.
you're
Okay.
coming in.
Okay. Yeah.
It sounded like something was right in there, and it let out this huge howl, and it was deep. It was huge. Whatever it was, you could tell it had a lung capacity to it.
And it didn't sound like a coyote. It was,
Oh no,
right.
It was very, very. You know how a coyote has a real kind of a higher pitched yip.
Right. Was it?
And howl.
Was it what similar to what we heard at Kamuga that night during when we was doing that live? Remember when all that went on back across?
No,
This
no,
was different.
Much deeper.
Much deeper.
It like a. When I say deeper, I mean like a deep voice.
Right. Okay, I got you.
You know, like a ooh, like
yeah,
like
okay.
that. But it didn't sound like any. It did sound like a howl though. That's the crazy part. It sounded like a howl, but it was so loud. And the funny thing about it, those, as soon as it started howling, those coyotes stopped immediately. They just shut down. It was like whatever it was telling them to shut up.
That's probably what he was doing.
I mean, and that's honestly what it made me think of.
Yeah.
And that's really about all that happened that trip.
Okay.
But as you said, we did have some things happen at Kamuga that were
right. Yeah, that when we had that what was it, December?
No, that was the Christmas, the dinner.
Yeah, we didn't have much.
That was April.
April, yeah, you're right.
When we had the
Christmas, we didn't really have much happen.
Didn't really have anything. But in April, it's when we heard almost that perfect Bigfoot howl. Yeah. I mean, it was almost perfect.
Yeah, and we were live during that.
Yeah.
With Stacy and Brian and who else was there? Was Wendell there? Somebody else was there.
Was it Mr. Terry?
Maybe Mr. Terry. Yeah, that's right. I think it was because he came over a little bit on Friday. That's right.
Right.
So that was right before dark too. I mean, this was still daylight a little bit.
Oh yeah, y'all were on live, and it was about dusk dark.
Yeah, about dusk dark, and it come. I don't know. It was a little piece off from us. I'm gonna say at least, what do you think, half a mile?
Yeah, I mean
somewhere like that probably. And it was over on AOW, the old Army ammunition plant land where it come from. There ain't nothing over there. And,
and then we started hearing those weird calls that couldn't figure out what they were.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
well, we kept hearing something else. I never figured out if it was machinery or what. It was a odd sound,
but it was also coming from different areas too.
Right,
remember?
Right. It was a strange
night.
Strange night. I think once we all went to bed, nothing really happened that I know of. It stayed pretty quiet that night.
Yeah, I did.
Saturday night when we actually had the fire pit, but when we had the fire pit Saturday night, not much happened, did it?
No,
I don't think it stayed quiet. What I remember,
it was pretty much more Friday night.
Yeah,
everything happened. Yeah. Now we have had we camp down there, just me and my husband sometimes, and You know, I told you about having the one night that all night long the ducks and
Stuff
geese
stayed
were,
tore up.
yeah, I mean they were screaming all night on and off.
Yeah, there was something. It was something they didn't like around.
Yeah, they were, because I know usually they bed down.
Yeah. Well, that Friday night, well, when we had the fire pit up our time, they stayed quiet at night. We didn't hardly hear them. So it definitely something had them stirred up in there.
We've camped at Kamuga 4 times now, and that's the only one night. That one night, that's the only time I've ever heard them scream on and off all night.
Right. There's no telling what was pilfering around out there.
Yeah, it had to be something.
And Kamuga's got reports of some boogers being there, and somebody seeing a dog man, plus place full of paranormal.
Rebecca. She loves Rebecca. And she's not vicious. That's what she does, try to get you to come over and pet her. I've tried to convince her not to do that because people will think she's vicious.
Now she's looking at sister now. But so Kamuga's produced a little bit, Hollands, and now we go back to a few weeks ago when had a little camp out there because a lot of people were going to Alabama Bigfoot conference up in Anniston. So had a little camp out. Turned out good. Wasn't too bad hot. It got a little hot, but other than that, and had that one thunderstorm come through that morning about daylight. It kind of
a few scattered storms.
Yeah, so, but overall it turned out. But it was a ton of stuff happened at that one.
That there was.
Of course, Chad and Erica told their part on online cryptids the other night, and then Roger had his show about what him, Ken, Flat Rock, and Harley seen. And I know KDG had some things happen, and some other people did. And this Wednesday night, me and Roger and Wendell and who else did he say? Can't remember. We're gonna have a little show Wednesday night.
Okay.
Bigfoot 911 with a window about. Oh, Gary, there we go. My brain went. I'm gonna talk about what Mr. Gary and Wendell and got a scene that went across that road real quick. And about us looking at the impressions and everything. But so I know later in the week, I don't know what day it was.
This was Wednesday.
Okay.
I believe. Yes, because I had to leave Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
For some various things. So it was Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, we were all sitting there under the tent because it was hot and it was raining. And we just all sit around talking. I was sitting facing towards the gate. Well, as you take that little road around the circle.
Right.
I was sitting facing towards let's put it this way, it was the same wood line that Roger and them caught what they caught in. Right. It was the same area. Right. Exact same area. And I was just sitting there and I started seeing a shape, I'd say maybe 30 feet into the woods, maybe. And then I started seeing movement. Gosh, I wish I'd have. You see how like that limb in your fire pit has the leaves still on it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what
Let me get that where we kind of show people what you're talking about.
Yes, because it's kind of essential to just. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was seeing.
There we go. So this, of course, is a dead. You were probably looking at a green one.
No, I was looking at dead. That's what caught my attention because it was so brown.
Okay.
Against the whole backdrop that was so green.
Right. So that it stood out.
Yes,
Yeah.
it stood out.
Like that would. If you seen it laying out somewhere in a green spot, that would stand out, definitely.
And I started seeing it.
Okay, you do what you need to do with it.
I started seeing it go
So something was moving it.
that fast too. Not just a slow breeze like this. It was moving it fast like this.
There wasn't no wind or anything
No.
going on at that time.
No wind whatsoever. There was absolutely no wind. And I could kind of see a little bit of it was just a dark shape kind of behind it.
And so it didn't have you couldn't really see a outline, or could you see an outline?
No, it was more just
a dark spot back there.
Right, a dark spot.
That was moving though.
Yes. Well, I was seeing this in front of it, about like this, and then it, whatever it is, up above it, kind of like that.
Okay, all right.
And I sat there and watched it for the longest, trying to figure out what it was, because I'll be honest, I don't see good at a distance without my glasses, and I did not have them on that day. But I can see to make stuff out.
Right.
I just can't see fine detail.
Right. I got you.
And I finally said something to Gary. And I think it was Gary. I
you
said
can throw it down if you want to.
Something to first. And I said, there is something back there moving. I can't tell what. I can see it moving. And okay, Gary is able to do mind speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I told him, he said, that's a juvenile. It's waving at you. It likes you. I said, okay. So I waved back. I kid you not. When I waved back, it started doing that again. Now, and I'm going to tell you something else. There were a couple of times. Now, this went on for like 2 to 3 hours.
Off and on that day.
Yes, off and on that day. I mean, I just, I get up, move a little bit, and come back and sit back down, and I would see it again. Let me back up the story. Once everybody else become aware of it, Sherry decided to go up there and see if she could see what it was. And as soon as Sherry got to the tree line, the dark shape just disappeared. The leaves stayed, but the dark shape disappeared. That's what made it so weird.
Right. So then pretty much that was something there looking at you.
Right.
And when Sherry approached the wood line, it probably laid down or backed up or whatever it did, but
the leaves stayed.
Right.
The leaves stayed.
Yeah.
And I would look up there occasionally, and the leaves would just to be, going just, fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that I would look around in the woods and the wood line. There would not be a leaf moving anywhere else. Nowhere else.
Wow.
And then there were times that it was the exact opposite. We would get a breeze, and I would look just to check. And that would not be moving whatsoever. The brown leaves would not be moving whatsoever, but all the other leaves on the bushes and trees would be moving. And there were a couple of times Gary goes, he's waving at you again, but Gary's back was to what I was seeing. I was watching it over Gary's shoulder. And he would tell me, he's waving at you again. And I'd look up there, and sure enough, it was moving. So, I had to pick my husband up that Thursday. He's a truck driver, and he come in that Thursday. We get back, and he's doing something with a camper, and he notices that we had been there for a little while, and he goes out to put some water into our camper. We had a bladder on the back of the truck, and he just, eased it back there, the back to
Right.
around the back of the camper, so he could transfer water to our camper. And he noticed they were two rocks on the just perfectly placed on the bumper, and they were diamond shaped, and they kind of had some sparkly look in them.
Were they quartz or were they something else?
I think they were like
Did you
some
keep
type.
them?
I didn't, because Brian didn't understand what they were. He
Okay, I
he
got you.
didn't know what gifting was
Okay, I got you.
at that time.
Okay.
And once he actually just threw one on the ground, and I'm not sure what he done with the second one. I think it got left on the bumper.
Okay.
Or it disappeared. But he didn't tell me till the next day.
Right.
And I'm not even sure what brought the subject up. Oh, yes, I do. He found a different rock the next day on the bumper again.
Wow.
And I told him that might be gifting. I wasn't sure, so I went to Mr. Gary, and I talked to him about it. He said, yes, they gifted you.
Yep.
He said that they got upset with Brian a little bit, but he explained to them that he didn't know.
Right.
And they come back. So I asked him if it was okay if I could give them something in return, just a little something. Well, with me being a jewelry maker in the past, I had a lot of glass stones, and I was told that they like blue, the color blue.
Right.
So I went and picked out two pretty blue stones. One was a teardrop, and another was a square. And I also picked out a green teardrop. Well, I put them on the our camper bumper. And Gary told me just leave them there till the day you get ready to leave. Well, I can't say for sure what happened. Yes, it did rain, but even with the rain, they should have been somewhere underneath.
Right. They should have knocked them off right there on the ground.
Right. And I searched a 5-foot radius around that bumper and could not find those stones.
So they're gone.
Yes, they are gone. They were gone. And Gary told me that they did take them. The juvenile that had been waving at me did take them.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. And I know about the rocks and other stuff they leave for you. They used to leave me and Keith stuff on up on the mountain all the time, and I think they've been doing it here a little bit too. But because we've found a few odd things that me and her know we didn't set it there,
right?
And so sounds like a juvenile was watching you. They rode in on you.
I think so.
And it may have been because you went to paying attention to it too, because you went to looking, paying attention. And so it zeroed in on you because it knew you were watching. And it's probably one of the same ones that have been messing around there the whole week.
Well, Gary just told me today when I talked to him earlier that juvenile was the same one that put the fingerprints on Chad and Erica's car.
Oh, okay.
And that would make sense. It was the same area.
Right.
I mean, it was all in the same area.
Well, me and Rebecca and another couple rode down there Friday night. They came over to look at her motorcycle, and he came to test drive it, see if he could see what might be going on with it. And they've had some encounters out in the national forest, and of course they talked to me a lot about Bigfoot when they come over, and we didn't get to do a live. And one reason we didn't get to do a live because we had them coming to look at the motorcycle.
Right.
And, I should have just put them on live.
Yeah,
but I didn't want to, run them off.
No pressure.
So after we got done and everything, I told them, I said, well, they asked me about different spots in National Forest for the ride at. And I told them, I said, have you been to the campground down there? I said, which camp? And they kept thinking I was talking about the one on 148. And I said, no, this is a different one. So I said, come on, I'm gonna show it to you. So we rode down there, and but there was other people camping down there. There was one down in the bottom, had a generator going, and then the people was up there about where Gary was, and they had a jukebox going, so we couldn't really hear nothing.
Goodness.
And we sit there for maybe an hour. We just had rain down there. By the time we got there, the rain had quit, so it was real wet. But we didn't hear anything or notice. And I ran my thermal, and I noticed that since it'd been raining a lot, so Joe and Pat on their video, they're right, which I knew they were. I mean, what I'm trying to say is I witnessed it, what it looks like after a rain. That thermal doesn't pick up as well. It's having to fight that moisture in the air. And I learned that other night.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's something for everybody to remember. Right after rain, running a thermal might not do as well. It might do better in the winter because you don't have as much evaporation, but here in the summer, and Stacy can tell you, growing up here in Alabama, as soon as it rains, all the moisture starts rising back up, and
yes,
your defroster won't work good in your car. I mean, the air is just so full of moisture. So when I was looking through the thermal, I was scanning because I was trying to see maybe if there was one sitting there watching these other campers. And of course, I'm trying to look through foliage, which you can't see through foliage, especially with all that going on.
And it's thick down there.
And where we see it was where you usually camp at. I pulled in that little spot and sit right there.
Right.
And but now the guy that was with us happened to walk on the other side of his truck. We both had both noses of the truck pointed out, and I was probably sitting about where your camper usually sits, and he was right beside me.
Yeah.
He walked over to he was the one closer to the woods than I was. He walked around to that side of his truck, and he come right back in just a minute. He said, man, there's something walking right over there. He said, I heard it take steps when I walked that way. And so, of course, I put the thermal over there. But like I said, the foliage is just so thick, and there was so much moisture in the air.
Yeah.
Something could be here to that shop from us, which is, what, 50 foot, 60
You'll
foot.
never see it.
If it's in that foliage, it's not going to show up.
And talking about where he was talking about something was walking, would have been back there behind the camper, correct?
Right, back that way, yeah. But now it was on in the woods where he heard the walking. Right.
Well, the first night I went back to my camper by myself, even though Mr. Billy wanted to go back with me, make sure I got back, and I appreciate that, Billy. Always a gentleman.
Billy's a good man.
He is. He's a great guy. If you hadn't met him, he's a treat to me.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
But I always had that first night, I just had a feeling something was watching from over in that area, back in there.
So I
don't know, I just had a feeling.
You had a feeling, yeah.
And it wasn't a bad feeling. But now the second night, when I went back to the camper, I had a kind of a creepy feeling. Like, it's hard to explain the difference. First night, I it was like I'm going about my business, I ain't paying attention because I didn't feel anything. But that second night I went back, it just, I don't know, it's like I couldn't get in the camper fast enough, really. Because
so I wonder if it was a different one there.
There was
something there. Well, there is something, how to put this. I think there's something bad there too.
Yeah.
I think some of the boogers are good. I don't think they're gonna mess with you. There's too many people camped down there in the last few years.
Oh, yeah.
And it could have probably got ugly if it wanted to, and it hasn't.
No.
Now, we know Crystal's boy at the meet and greet seen something down there. And I'm going to leave it there right now. But we know orbs have been seen there. We know that
the fog.
We know that, vibration happens down there, almost like a little mini earthquake.
Yep.
Chad and Erica said they felt that. I don't know if you felt that down there yet or not.
No, not down there, but I have felt it in other places.
And so the place is real rich. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
And you living here in Chicago, you can attest to there's some strange stuff here.
Very.
Yeah, and it ain't always dealing with people. It's a strange. There's some good things here, but then you feel some bad things. I don't know if some of that's because we're on the 33rd parallel, or something in history terrible happened here. Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I think sometimes is we've got such a rich history of things happening on the land.
Yes.
That, I mean, and I truly believe the land absorbs some of it.
And, and the battlefields definitely do.
Yes.
And we live in a county that had several major battles during the Creek Indian War. A lot of deaths happened not far from here, from soldiers coming back and dying at what was at one time my grandfather's place there at Cedar Creek. So, I mean, you had the Battle of Talladega. A lot of folks were killed there. And these other, one of the last battles of the Civil War happened in Talladega County. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, up there at Montford.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a monument up there. Yeah. Not many people know where it is anymore.
Right. But what was it? One of the last Confederate and Union soldiers killed?
I think
in
so.
The Civil War.
Yeah.
The war had done been over, and they didn't know it. And they got in a little skirmish there at Montford.
Well, a lot of people don't know the history of Tecumseh. Wasn't it Tecumseh that
it came to Alabama?
Talladega. That's one. The courthouse is where it is.
Yeah. Tecumseh came there, and what was that? And he came, 1811, wasn't it? Right. And then, he predicted there'd be a major earthquake. And then, of course, the earthquake happened there on that Madrid fault, killed a lot of people. And that's when the Creeks started kind of getting on the war path, some of them, against, the white settlers that had been coming in. And they'd been wrong. So, I mean, they had,
very.
But that's a whole different story. That's one I'd like to get Ken Shivers on with me to go through that.
He'd be great.
Yeah. And so there's a lot and of course we had the Army ammunition plant here during World War II that made the heavy water for the atomic bomb. One of the largest marble deposits in the world and the widest. I keep telling people one of the only places on earth somebody hit by a meteorite. What's your chances of getting hit by a meteorite?
And living.
And that thing's size of a football.
Yep.
And you got Gravity Hill over here that's, some people say it's an optical illusion. I've heard people say they've went over there with instruments and said it's an optical illusion. Then I've heard surveyors went over there with their equipment and say it ain't an optical illusion. So who's telling the truth, or
depends on the point of view you want to believe.
So, and this place is rich in a lot of water. Supposed to be an underground river that runs under Sylacauga, and
I would really love to know if that's true.
I had a guy that was in an airplane, and he said that's the only way you can see it is be up in the air, that you can see how it sways back and forth.
Really?
He said you can see it, especially in the winter time.
Well, it would also make sense considering we have so many sinkholes.
Yeah.
I mean,
right. Of course, a lot of that's caused. Well, that sun's getting right on us right now, ain't
it? It is.
It'll be right on down below that tree line in just a minute. But there's a lot of natural history here, and then there's a lot of human history here. And of course, one time most of this was supposed to have been under the ocean at one time. And of course, people find seashells all the way up here, and stuff that live in the sea on the side of these mountains. They find it. So one time the sea was up here, according to fossil records.
Right.
And and of course, the Creek Indians lived in here for hundreds of years, and before them, it would have been the Mississippians, which I think the Creeks come out of them. That lived in this area, and of course, these tales of giants living in this area at one time.
Really, I don't think I've heard those.
Oh yeah, they've talked about when some of them digs were happening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even some of the Native Americans that lived in Alabama were very tall. Chief Tuscaloosa, they said, was what they think maybe over 7 foot tall. And his son was very tall. And there's some other parts of history where it talks about the Native Americans, some of them in Alabama, were very tall.
Look at all the burial mounds we have.
Oh, yeah. We got tons of mounds all over Alabama. There's a lot of them that ain't even hardly documented because they're on private property. And I mean, I've witnessed a few of them that's on private property. And then there's some places I see around here that just don't look natural to me. When I look at it, I said, man, that's just, I know nature can do some perfect stuff. I know it can cut rock and make it look square, through water erosion. I know it can do a lot of things, but there's a couple of hills around here. They're on private property. When you look at them, they look like a freaking pyramid sitting there. I mean, that's what they look like. It's a pyramid.
It wouldn't surprise me.
When you look at them, you just like, man, that is just not natural looking. I mean, how can it be that perfect looking?
Well, I mean, when most people think of pyramids, they think of Egypt.
Correct.
And that's just not true.
That's not all of them.
They're all over the world.
That's it. Mexico. They've talked about there's some here in North America.
Oh yeah.
And down in Peru, and they talked about there was some in Russia at one time, and they think they got destroyed by a mud flood. There's a lot of talk about the mud flood from the 1800s, but we can't. They even said one happened in the United States during the 1800s, and it was covered up. I don't know how you cover that up.
Well, look,
but
that there's been talk of them being around the Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
and
that is true.
They won't let people go down there anymore.
Yeah, there's a section you cannot go into.
Right.
I think you can float down the river, but you can't stop there. You have to go on through that part of the river.
So it makes you wonder, what are they hiding?
But I only think they'll let you fly in that area.
You can't. You can't even fly a drone.
Yeah, I think there's a little section there. I think you can go down the river, but you can't stop in there. You got to keep on, because people raft that river.
Oh yeah.
So I imagine they let, but as far as going in there on foot or carrying an airplane, so there's something there. What, of course we hear maybe where a bunch of Egyptian stuff is. And I wouldn't doubt that.
I don't.
I think they were traveling more than we know of. I think there's a lot more travel going on. It wasn't documented. And
just like the Vikings too.
See it. They were all over. There's tales that the Welch came into Alabama. What was it? In the 1100s, 1200s? That a few Welchmen came up into Mobile Bay. They come up the Alabama River. They got on the Coosa, went all the way up to Coosa, and stopped up there around Fort Payne, back up in there on the Little River area where the Little River Canyon is. They say that's how some of the Cherokee, they think, come up with some of the Cherokee having blue eyes was from the Welchmen. I mean, we don't know that, don't make, I mean, we can't prove it.
Well,
but then again, there's some people that say
there's still genetics that could prove some of it.
Yeah.
If it was allowed to be proved.
That's it. That's where I think a lot of stuff kept hidden on purpose.
It doesn't fit the agenda.
When we go to looking at the giants in the North America, the Bigfoot, all the other stuff, a lot of it's been suppressed. it's getting harder for them to suppress about the Bigfoot because there's so many witnesses. And I mean, you didn't get a full blown head on look, but you got enough to convince you they're for real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just what you got. I mean, because
absolutely,
you watched this limb go back and forth.
There was absolutely. I mean, even I was telling Rebecca about it, and Rebecca was trying to debunk it.
Well, yeah,
and that's great.
That's what I like for her to do. She tries to.
She said, "Well, maybe it was a raccoon. Maybe it was a possum."
Yeah.
Not at the rate of how fast it was moving. I mean, if it was one of those, and it always seemed to, do it, every little while, or whenever I would, kind of start looking up that way, it would start doing it.
I kind of like her doing that, and I'll tell you why. Because it makes you step back and think again.
Right. Well, and we all should.
Right. And it makes us look at every different angle. It's just like looking at pictures. Sometimes she is more drawn back from looking at pictures.
Yeah.
And I've told people this. Rebecca don't like looking at pictures. It's not because she don't believe somebody. It's just because it's like me and her. I can see something different out here than she can see it.
Mm-hmm.
You can see something out here different than I can see it.
Oh, yeah.
Me and you can look at the same object. I mean, like that tractor right there. You can find some stuff I'm not looking at, and I can find some stuff that, vice versa.
Right, but I don't see.
Right. So it goes with our vision too, and my vision is not as good as it used to be.
Oh, mine either.
But I feel that what you were looking at was a juvenile, and he took a little liking to you. I think he did. I mean, we had one on Hunt Club that took a liking to me and Keith.
Well, in truth, it was only, let's say, 3 females down there, and the rest of it was males.
Yeah.
So
for that time, for around that time.
And if it was a little boy juvenile, then it may have taken a liking to the women.
Right.
You don't know.
Excuse me I didn't mean to do that. Ooh, sitting down, I've relaxed finally. Plus, it's cooling off out here.
Yeah, it feels good out here now.
Well, that sounds like what you saw. It's got the characteristics of it.
Yeah.
I mean, what they do, they played the peekaboo. That's what I tell people. That's what they did with us up on the hunting club. It's the first one I seen. He played peekaboo with me, and sounds like that one was doing the same little thing. It was waving. I don't know if he may have been waving that bush to get your attention.
I just, maybe he waved it to begin with, and then it became a game.
Possibility.
Because juvenile, let's just face it, we are their entertainment.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they like to watch us.
Yeah, they do, and some people have referred to them as the watchers.
Oh yeah.
I've not the watchers in the Bible.
Right.
Came down on Mount Hermon,
but that makes sense.
Right. A lady that I talked to, I'd love to have her on whenever she feels like she's ready to come on. She grew up. She got Native American ancestry. Grew up in Arkansas. I'll go a little bit, but I won't. But she said her grandmother, who was part Cherokee, told her when they were young, said, the watchers are out there. They're not going to hurt you. As long as you don't do nothing toward them that seems like you're going to hurt them.
Right.
They're not going to bother you. If she told her, said, if you encounter one, you speak softly and tell them, hey, I'm not going to bother you, and you turn and walk off. Don't run. You just wave, put your hand up, wave, say, hey, I'm not here to bother you, and ease on out. And then I've heard that several more times. I've heard it on some other shows where people referred to them as the watchers. And so, and that's what they do. They sit and observe. Um, and I think it's curiosity, like you said, we're entertainment.
Right.
I mean, we pull up out in the woods, we start getting our campers out, and we start cooking food, we start laughing and talking, and they come up to watch. And then once we go to bed at night, they start doing their little
They
tricks.
come out to investigate.
Well, that, and I think they do their little tricks. And I think some of them are tricksters. And what I mean, not a bad trickster. What I mean, they do little things to see your reaction.
Right. That's what I was just fixing to say.
Yeah.
They want to see your reaction the next
Yeah.
day when, because, you know, that gives them more to watch.
Yeah. Well, it's like at the meet and greet, those dog panels, and everybody at meet and greet seen them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I walk out there and there's a pine cone shoved in one. Right there at the gate where me and her was opening that gate going into the camper, and I asked Rebecca, I said, you put that
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
there's a picture of it.
I
I'll have to show you that.
guess I missed it somehow.
There was a pine cone shoved in one of them rails.
Yeah.
It takes some force. It took me a little force to get it out. And I asked Rebecca, I said, you put that there? She said, no. I said, well, you know, of course, part of me wants to say that somebody's playing a trick.
Right.
But then I got to thinking, I said, well, Lord, there's the woods here to that swing. And we'd had our camper there since what, Tuesday? Yeah, that Tuesday when I carried it down. But now this was more like toward Thursday and Friday when I noticed it. I think it was on Friday when I noticed the pine cone. But I got a picture of it. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, because I mean, they would have had to. You've got this. I've got one of those fences too, and those are small, little small, and those pine cones are huge down there.
Yeah.
I mean, they are literally. I've seen some that were this long.
Right.
I mean,
there's some huge ones.
Biggest.
And
I've
I think
ever
they do
seen.
some of that stuff to see if you recognize it. And number two, it's more like almost like a calling card. Want to say, hey, I was here.
Yeah,
I was here. Here's how close I was to you. I was right here at you. I left you a little something to say, hey, I was here.
Right.
Now, like when we were feeding on the hunting club, they were leaving us rocks and nuts and flowers and some other things. And then even at my house, they were leaving stuff, even dead squirrels. That one was wild when they started leaving them, but they were leaving it on my cattle, on my horse gate where I go into my horses. There'd be a squirrel laying there.
Mm-hmm.
That squirrel didn't dive out of that tree and fall right there and get killed. Because this squirrel would have a broke back. Something grabbed it and broke his back, you know. So that happened several times. And so
you think it was a warning or a gift?
I think it was a gift.
Man, well, it's food to them, so why wouldn't they think it's food to you?
I think this was during that time period that me and Keith were feeding on the club, and they were coming to the house too. They started
Makes
showing
sense. Y'all were leaving them food, or in their minds, they thought you were leaving them food when y'all were feeding on the club.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And I need to get my sister-in-law, or I don't mean to call her ex-sister-in-law, but I still consider her sister-in-law. But she's the one that informed me that they were coming to the house, and I need to get her on here to tell that because she's the one that really let me know they were coming to the house. And
okay.
So she was babysitting for us, and I was at work, and she called at work and said, "Why you got a bunch of apes in your backyard for?" That was her exact words. Well, she said, well, I won't say that. She said a few more words, but
yeah.
But I got tickled. I said, well, that's Bigfoot, ain't it? And I said, yeah. I said, don't worry, they ain't gonna mess with you. You know, I went talking to her, and she stuck her phone out the door, and I mean, it was sound like you was at the Birmingham Zoo. You know, it was.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and I'm like, Lord have mercy.
Now, did you know they were there before that?
No.
No.
So I was at work, and there she is babysitting my
Okay.
kids, and this is going on at 11 o'clock at night. Because my ex-wife at the time was on a business trip, and I had done went and worked out here to this other plant. I had done left the quarry, and I was on 12-hour shifts. And about 11 o'clock, my phone rang, and I knew. I said, "Oh, something's going on for her to call me at 11 o'clock." And what happened? She went out to smoke on the porch, on my back porch. I think she ain't stepped out good, and she heard just like that, and she's like, "What in the world?" And she said, "Here come my two horses running up out of the pasture. They got over here by where that gate is I was talking about." And then she said all these sounds, just and that's when she come in the door and went to dialing me. And of course, when I went to talking to her, and she held out the phone, and I heard what all was going on. I asked her, I said, "Where's the dogs at?" She said, "Well, they up against the wall on the back porch here." She said, they can't go no further. They're trying to push the wall. And that's when I said, "Well, where's the horses?" I said, "Because whatever is out in the pasture, that's where the horses are." She said, "The horses over here where your gate is," because my gate was on the side of the house where my driveway was. She said, "They're both backed up with their butts up to the gate looking out there where all that sound's going on."
Now, did in the future after that, did they ever bother your horses?
Never bothered them. Never bothered them.
I mean, there's been a lot of reports of
Yeah.
people saying they bother their
They never
horses.
bothered my horses. Didn't bother my dogs, my chickens. They didn't bother nothing there.
I'm going to be curious to hear if y'all may, now that y'all got some new little critters over yonder.
See if something comes to visit.
Yeah, comes to visit.
Well, we've got the rabbits right there.
Mhm.
We got chickens. We got chickens over here. Now, I will say, two of my roosters have got mean all of a sudden. Now, it could be just coincidence that they're getting that they're becoming mean, but they used to not do that. They started getting aggressive with me. They wasn't with Rebecca. I'm wondering if sometimes at night they're getting aggravated by something that's about my size.
Yeah, if
And
they're not
because-
doing it towards her.
Right. Now, she did say the black rooster has started toward her now. This rooster over in the front yard has been just docile, easy going. I walked in the other day, that sun gun went ballistic on me.
Wow.
I'm like, what in the world's wrong with you? And so I don't know. And I've caught the rabbits before being very nervous. I would come in and the rabbits get real jumpy. They've done Rebecca that before, way before. It's like we come in the gate and walk in there, they all freak out for a minute. Then they figure, oh, it's you. They figure
like
out.
they were expecting something else.
Right. And we found cages open. We found the feed doors open. We found the gate open. And I have
But
found.
never hurt.
Well, let me go back and say this. I found two rabbits dead in there. They didn't have a mark on them. But I will tell you about a rabbit. A rabbit will break its leg or its neck on its own real easy if it goes struggling. So, like if I was to hand you a rabbit
Yeah, it started
and you didn't
out.
hold that rabbit
Right.
it could break its neck. And I think because when I picked them up, their necks were real limp. It's like so I don't think, in my mind, it was done on purpose. I think it may have went to play, held a little too hard. The rabbit bucked itself real good and broke its neck. Now, because I've never found one what I could find with a mark on it.
Right.
I've never found a chicken with a mark. Most times, if we lose chickens, it's to a hawk or something of that nature.
Right.
Why I think they don't mess with nothing here is because one time when they first started coming here, or when they showed up here, I don't know if they were coming through here already or if they followed me from over yonder. Probably could be a little bit of both.
Right.
They went to slapping on the house, with Rebecca in there, hitting the door, hitting inside the house, getting sister tore up, turning off the solar lights outside,
Right.
Then we found a big thumbprint in the air conditioner right there at our bedroom where you can stand there and put your hand on the air conditioner, look right in there. And a regular man cannot go over and look in there. Even a guy that's 6'7", 6'8" cannot go over and look in there because that window, and a lot of people have seen it. I've carried people around there.
to look over an air conditioner
Right.
too.
And for me to even turn those spotlights back on, I had to go get my step ladder because they're like 10 foot off the ground. And I get up there and them spotlights be turned off. I just flip them back on. And then finally I went and got a different style that you can't flip off really.
Right.
And when I did that, guess what happened? They keep working now. They don't turn off no more. So
At least they didn't break them.
yeah. So well, I know Scott Granger up in North Georgia said they were unscrewing the light bulbs on his.
I've heard that before.
So, but I came out here one night after they done hit the house too many times, done stirred up everything. That's when the neighbor over yonder seen one, and that's when this neighbor over here seen one, and was having stuff happen at their place. I finally just walked out here one night, walked right out in that field. But I just had a sneaky feeling they were here that night.
Right.
And I just went to talking. I said, look here, just don't get on each other's bad side. You know, that's the way I kind of put it. I said, y'all can come through here on your hunting trips. Don't be coming up here slapping the house. Don't be doing this. Don't be hurting animals. Don't be bothering my wife. Don't be bothering neighbors.
Well,
and
they have intelligence.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. So, I mean, you think about it. If somebody, you would want somebody to speak to you intelligently.
Right.
You know, so why should they be any different?
Right. Right. I believe they can understand us.
Oh, absolutely,
I think
they
can understand us. And I think they know your body language, too. I think they know when you come in the woods, what kind of mood you're in.
I don't necessarily think they are a animal. I think there's more to it.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot more to them.
I think they're like a people, some kind of people. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it may not be a people's like you and me, but
right, and I do believe they're their own clan.
Yeah.
Of
yes.
beings.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That has some human characteristics to them. Of course.
Well, they probably have some human genetics.
Well, a lot of them say they do. They say the DNA comes from the mother side, and when they done the DNA toward the father side, they couldn't figure out what it was. Now that goes on back in some stuff that I believe in the Bible, going with the Nephilim, the Rephaim, and some of these other groups. I'm not saying Bigfoot is a Nephilim, but they could have a little of that genetic in them from that. But we know too, according to the book of Enoch, that, and I think Jasher, if I'm quoting that correctly, if I'm not, somebody will correct me, but I think there was mentioned that the angels just didn't fool with human women. They also were playing genetics with animals and plants.
Yeah.
Because
that's what I've heard.
Because the Lord said that all things on earth had been corrupted. Man, animals, and even plant life had been corrupted. So what did they play with? You know, I don't think the angels were having sex with animals. I think what they were doing, taking this gene, putting them together, kind of like what people's doing now. You know, with different things.
How they have discovered how to do it again.
Right.
Because I think it is again, not new. That, you know.
Right. Well, the Bible says there's nothing new on earth. Anything that we experience has already been here at one time.
Right.
So, and Jesus even referred toward the end of time it becoming like the days of Noah. So if we go back to look what was going on in Noah's time period, which the Bible,
which was all the corruption,
and then Enoch, you know, goes into it a little deeper, and some of the other books that a lot of people don't pay attention to, or I'll say the main church doesn't pay attention to.
Yeah, because it's not in the Bible.
Right. So you see what was going on with the earth. You had man that done became very corrupted, and then you had these Nephilim beings running around and doing all their chaotic stuff, and they were and the fallen angels were playing with all of this genetics on the earth, and they don't tell them what they were creating that was popping up. I I mean, I've even heard that dinosaurs may have been part of what their genetic playing around. Could be, I don't know.
It would explain them.
Because the Bible says God made everything that was good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say He made everything. Well, He kind of did, but what I'm saying, He made everything that was good. They came
And corrupted
it, and they've been doing that since that time period. And then I think, my opinion, I may be 100% wrong, and if I am, I will admit it. I think we're going to see this stuff start easing back, and we already kind of are seeing some of this stuff ease back into it. So, well, I know we've been what? Let me see how long. I don't want to wear you out here. Yeah, we're right at an hour. Is there anything else you want to? Huh? Okay, babe. Rebecca said enough. I gotta go get a shower. Yeah, we've been working out here all day. Me and her is both been wringing wet all day. Stacy can tell you the humidity shot up here Friday in Alabama. It was hot.
Summer got here.
Summer, and it came in on the day of summer.
It did. I noticed that too.
It came in. I mean, our temperatures went. We've been having what, like 82,
80, 85.
Yeah, and the days, even with all the rain, it wasn't bad.
We had a few bad days. Yeah. The humidity was so thick and
right. But Friday,
not bad.
It was like somebody hit you with a boxing glove. Boy, when you walked outside, it got hot quick.
As soon as you opened the door, it just hit you in the face.
It was. Yesterday was another one. Today didn't start off too bad, but by the time about 2 or 3 o'clock, I could tell it changed real quick. The humidity. It's probably fireworks. That's something I hate about this time. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy fireworks.
Oh yeah, 4th of July.
I like them when cities do them, and then they're over with. And I don't mind the neighborhood shooting a few, but you get some, they want to shoot them all night long. They want to start at 7 o'clock in the evening, and they'll go to 2 or 3 in the morning.
Personally, I'm not I'm like you. I would rather go to the city, do it.
What's theirs.
Right.
And then.
Because most people that have animals, especially those that have animals that are scared of them, it's a nightmare. Every holiday that they want to shoot fireworks, it's a nightmare for those that have animals.
It is. You can walk out here at night when they're going off all around here, and these dogs, they'll be at the dog house looking. And
well, not only that, it's all the pollution, all the mess it makes.
It is.
I find like the bottle rockets, things like that in my, out there on the lawn. So if I'm finding that just in my small neighborhood, you can imagine, and we only have maybe a couple that shoot them off. You can imagine a neighborhood that has a lot of fireworks, right. That there's a lot of trash.
Oh yeah, it does. And a lot of smoke and gunpowder in the air, or whatever they use in fireworks now. But well, I meant to ask you this, and then I know we've been over an hour, and I don't want to wear you, but I will ask you this. Prior to this, I know you've been in the Bigfoot community now.
A couple of years.
About 3
or 4.
And I kind of know where you started at, because you told me, and we won't go down that road. But
yeah.
But had you ever had anything else in your prior life that you thought might have been maybe an encounter, and you just didn't realize that was an encounter? Because a lot of people don't realize they're having an encounter with them. Do you remember something growing up, or when you got grown?
The only thing I can remember growing up, we were sitting in the living room, and back in those days, you didn't run the air conditioner every time you turn around. So at night, we would open the front and back door to get a breeze going while we lived with my grandparents. Me and my mom did. And we would all go in there and sit down to watch TV at night. Now, this has been a while back.
Oh, yeah. Back in the good old days.
Yeah, back in the good old days. Well, my grandmother was sitting there closest to the door. I'd say she was maybe 4 or 5 foot, her chair from the door.
Okay.
You know, just enough room to open the door and then walk in. And she goes, "What is that?" She was looking at the wood line. We had some woods right there next to us. And it looked like a basketball size blazing orange orb.
Oh, you told me about this. Okay.
Yeah, and that's all, you know, we ever seen over there.
You don't mind me telling people that you kind of grew up over on almost at the National Forest. So
Oh no, yeah, yeah.
she grew up. Well, I'll say this: the area she grew up is not very far from Talladega on the National Forest side, and that place has had a strong history of boogers over there. It's called Waldo.
Yep.
Um, in fact, there used to be a guy that had a trading post over there that had footprints that he had cast all them years from Talladega Creek. Did you ever go to that trading post?
I didn't.
But you know where it was.
I think so.
Well,
I
it's not
think I
there
did.
no more. They tore it down after he died.
Oh goodness.
But what amazes me, one of the TV stations out of Birmingham, it wasn't the Fred guy that went around Alabama. It was the other guy that used to go around Alabama. I cannot think of his name, but he go visiting. Was it Mike Royer that went visiting too?
Yeah.
You know, he's a weatherman.
Yeah.
You know, and then he,
James Spann does too.
yeah, but he goes more to schools and communities.
Yeah.
I won't say it was Mike Royer started going around to like unique stuff in Alabama.
Wasn't Bill Bolin, was it?
May have been. I don't know. It's one of the older guys.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
That used to be on one of the stations, but he went and visited that trading post and interviewed that guy because he had like I can't remember how many footprint casts he had in that trading that he got off of Talladega Creek area in the National Forest over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked with a guy that lived in the same area that you grew up. That's seen footprints. He's heard some weird stuff. I'm hoping.
Oh, there's been a lot of sightings back off in that area.
Yeah, there's an area they call Scotts Lake over there. They've been seen there.
White Creek.
Yeah, of course, the Pinhoti comes right across there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of stuff. So she lived right there at a place that had a lot of Bigfoot sightings going on. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s. And,
you know, I don't know if you were ever aware of the gold mines there in Talladega.
I've heard of them. I've never been to them, but I've heard of them.
They were right on Talladega Creek. Yeah. Over there, you know where Bernie Station was?
Mm-hmm. Bernie Station back that way.
That part of that old Talladega Creek bridge that used to be metal.
Yeah.
It was right there at it.
Yeah.
To go up in there into the gold mines. We used to do a lot of mud riding back in there before they got closed down.
Right. And you know, right before you get to that church, I never knew that was a big old cliff right there. But one day I come through there and it was wintertime and I was going slow and I just happened to look up and I said, oh Lord.
Yep.
I mean, there was rocks sticking out of the hill big as that shop there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just stopped. And I got to looking. I said, I didn't know there was this big old cliff right here. You know, for years I just thought it was a big hill because you couldn't ever see nothing. Because I went fishing a ton of times right there where the dam is. You know, that dam right above the bridge. I fished there probably a million times.
Matter of fact, that dam that you're talking about, if you keep going back, okay, there was areas up in the gold mines. Like I said, we did a lot of mud riding, but there was areas that you had to have a big vehicle to get in and out.
Yeah.
Because you would get stuck. But one day, like I said, we were kids, maybe 16, 17 years old. We had a couple of guys that had really big trucks. They were running like 1744 tires.
Oh, yeah, the big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, the big ones.
Back in the days when everybody had the big monster trucks.
Yes. Yeah. And we went down into what they call the actual gold mines. And we actually found one of the actual mines and kind of walked in there. And thinking back on that now, that would be perfect habitat for
It
them.
would. It would. Well, you bringing that up, the guy I just told you about that grew up, and I've told you his name before. In fact, I
Mhm.
seen him here the other day, and I asked him, but I couldn't remember your last name, so I was sitting here, Lord, why don't you tell me her maiden name? But anyway, don't say that online.
I'm not,
But anyway,
but I'll tell you later.
I was sitting here and I asked him. I said, "Hey man, you ever remember Stacy?" And he's. I said, "She was a redhead at one time." Now I didn't mean to say that like that, but you know what I'm talking
I have
about.
gone white. Let's just say it. My hair's
but
turning white.
but anyway, he kept. He sit there and he said, "Where she exactly live?" I said, "Well, it was up in there, not far from you." And he sit there and thought a little while. He said, I can't, that name don't ring a bell with me, but he said, Mark, I'm going to say this. He said, there's a lot of redheaded girls that live around up there in my neck of the woods. I said, okay. So, he said, I don't know what it was.
Amen. I was gonna say though, I only went to school with two or three other.
Yeah,
That's
so I
it.
don't know. Now, maybe these were more his age group or something.
Maybe. And he could have been older or younger than me.
Well, I did ask him, and he is in his 60s.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good 10 years older than me.
So, and he said his younger brother would be about 58 right now. I think his sister was a little older than him. So,
Yeah, that's
but he told me,
definitely.
he said, I used to know everybody up in there. He said, but in their backyard was a national forest where they
Mhm.
lived at. He said they could walk out, go up a hill, and they were in the national forest.
Okay.
So, uh, where he lived at. So, but yeah, but what I was gonna say, what he said was they went in there to gold pan one day. He said they had to go in this road. And he says, old logging road, it was rough to get in there. He said, you had to have a
Mhm.
dang good four-wheel drive. And he said, when you get in there, you had to park about 100 yards from the creek. And then you had to walk down this hill and get down there. And he said, this part of the creek, nobody fools with much.
That
Because
sounds like where we went.
he said, it's hard to get in there. And he said, they went in there and got on a big sandbar. He said, big sandbar. And he said, when they got on that sandbar was perfect. There
Mhm.
wasn't nothing on it. They went up there to where some little falls are in the creek. So that's where you need to pan because
Mhm.
gold's heavy and it'll come over them rocks and fall
And
in them
drop.
little holes, and that's where you need to dig
Yep.
at. So they was up there digging. He said he kept feeling like something was looking at him. He said he kept telling the guy, he said, somebody's out here. That guy said, what are you talking about? He said, man, he said, something is staring a hole in me. And that guy said, you just, being paranoid. And they kept
No.
on. Well, they get ready to go to get all their stuff together. Well, they can't tote it all, so they got to tote some of it up there and then come back and get the rest.
Right.
So he starts walking down through there and he starts seeing these footprints that he said was 18, 19 inches that wasn't
Ooh.
there when they come through. He said, Mark, he said, them were not there when I came through
Mhm.
there. And he said, that guy looked and said, Lord of mercy. He said, what in the world? But he said they were around 18, 19 inches. He said they got up there, got that stuff in the truck, and they flew back down there and got their rest stuff and got out of there. And he said, I feel like that thing was right there at us staring. He said, I think it had done locked in on me.
Mhm.
That's why I was feeling. And he said, when we walked back to the truck, and I found its footprints, he said, the thing had to come out with us out there. We just didn't see it. He said, he had to
How
step out.
how
And,
did they not see it though?
well, they were probably sitting there doing that, not looking. And,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
if the guy was already on alert, feeling like somebody was
well,
looking at
yeah.
him,
So
makes you wonder how they can.
do that. Right.
Yeah.
So he said that plus he grew up in there and hearing all the people talk about it, and of course he'd heard other people that had experiences.
Mhm.
A lot of them are probably dead and gone now because he said a lot of these were older people that lived
Yeah.
up in there. Said that there had been all kind of stuff talked about there close to Waldo Bridge and the Waldo Mill and all back up in there. He said,
Mhm.
and he said tails after tails, and so there's no telling. So
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, with the forest right there, yeah, there's.
Yeah. It is. It is. Well, we'll get off here. I know I done kept you on here long enough, and Rebecca ought to be coming out in just a minute. She ought to be about done with her. Yeah, we're an hour and 20 minutes now. But I try not to go over an hour if I can help it.
Good talk.
Oh, it is. I've been really enjoyed it, and I think you had some good experiences.
I do. I have. I mean,
and I'm glad there hadn't been bad experiences.
Right. Everything I've had happen to me has been good so far. Yeah. And I just kind of feel like if you put out those good vibes, so to speak, that maybe that may, if you do have interaction, maybe it will be good too.
Right. I agree.
I mean,
well, it's like anything. An animal, when you walk in, though, if you're happy or if you're mad or what.
Oh, absolutely.
They know. And these beings can know the same thing.
They read you.
They read you, and they can know what kind of day you're having.
Mm-hmm.
And two, they may be able to read your intent. Who's to say.
And that's what I told Gary. I said, the whole time I was sitting there watching that wave at me, it never once crossed my mind to take a camera out.
And that's another, yeah, I agree. When you're having stuff happen, there's sometimes some people their brain will do something that gets them to get that phone out. The majority of the times I've had stuff happen, the phone was the last thing I thought about. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about a phone. I was glued in to what was going on out there.
I was just enjoying what was happening. I was enjoying, I was living in the moment of enjoying what was happening.
Right. That's just like, I mean, I know a lot of people catch a lot of stuff on film or video. I mean, there's times that I've caught big fish. I didn't take a picture of them. I probably should have.
Right.
I mean, there's
back up that fishtail.
There's probably been times I've had bird dogs pointing quail. I wasn't thinking about frogs going everywhere out here. I wasn't thinking about taking pictures of bird dogs. I was waiting on the quail to get up,
Right.
And now I wish a lot of times I had took pictures of some of my old bird dogs when it was pointed. But
yeah.
But that you don't think about that. And the same way with this. If one was to step out here with me and you sitting right here, and one got out in our
we
field,
would just sit here and watch it.
We're going to watch it because we're going to be shocked at first. We're going to be in awe, and our brain is not going to go, "Hey, get your phone out and video." I mean,
right?
We're going to be sitting here watching that thing go real quick. Now, if you know something's happening, you might could get your phone out and be thinking about it. What I mean, if you got something going on.
But I also think if they don't want to be filmed, they're not going to be.
True. Yeah, I think that too. I agree with that.
And quite honestly, I don't care about trying to prove
their existence, right?
Because I feel like there's enough evidence out there now,
right,
to prove it.
Right.
I don't need a dead body, as they like to say, to prove it.
Right. I don't even. I think even if we have it, it will be snatched up so quickly.
Right. You ain't gonna.
And probably what's happened already in the past in some places.
I mean, there's got to be times that as many road crossings as you have of people reporting road crossings, somebody has hit one at some point. So
there was something about around here.
Oh, really?
Somebody hitting something that looked dog looking, and I forgot where it was at. There was some talk about it, and then it just went hush.
They were probably threatened.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean,
you never know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I forgot where this was, but they was talking about this lady called in and said, and she got pictures of it, and there was a couple pictures surfaced, and it did look freaky looking, and if them pictures were real, I mean, we don't know that for 100% sure.
I think that's the thing these days with AI. I mean,
that's gonna mess us up.
Even if you were to come out with the most perfect video, somebody go, "That's AI. I don't believe that."
Right.
So
The only way I think people become believers is when they have something happen to them.
their own personal experience.
And even when you have stuff happen, your mind still has doubt come in. I don't know why we do that as humans. Or when I started having stuff happen on Creepy Mountain, even after I done saw what happened in Lowndes County or seen in Lowndes County, I still have my doubt for a little while. It's like I guess I had to prove it to myself. And then finally it come to the point where I know these things exist. Why am I playing with this? I've done seen this one. I have this happening. I have this happening.
Right.
And
just enjoy the experience. That's all I want. I just want to have experiences. I don't care nothing about trying to prove them. And I just want to enjoy the community.
That's it.
Which I have gotten. I've met some wonderful people in this community.
Yeah, there's some very good people in this community.
Absolutely.
Made a lot of people I consider family now.
Oh, me too. So me too. You being one of them.
Same with y'all.
You're stuck with us, Mark.
Well, y'all, we're gonna get off here. I know getting dark, and appreciate Stacy you coming on and sharing with us what you have experienced at several places, and now you kind of know what to watch for in some places. So some of you and Brian out camping more. And going to these new places, you can start paying attention a little more what might be and what you might run into, or start having happen. And
well, I mean, we like to go camp at Hollands, quite often, and Kamuga.
Yeah, and you get to some of these other places.
Yeah,
you might have something happen. So, well, everybody, y'all always remember love one another, get along, be kind. Text somebody, check on them. Sorry about not having live other night, but we'll Rebecca will be probably back Friday night if nothing ain't happening. And like I said, love one another and get along. So we're gonna get off here. The dark's about to be here on us, and
she was fine until she sang Sister. Then she wanted to go ballistic. Sister and Sunshine don't like each other. They're two divas, and they clash.
It's something else. Well, we love y'all. Y'all have a good rest of the week. I don't know what day this video was actually come out.
You ain't got to say that. They won't see it till it comes out.
I know, babe. I know. Anyway, we love y'all, and we'll see y'all later on. This is Mark Green with another Cedar Creek Bottom Fireside. Another Cedar Creek Bottom Farmstead Fireside Chat. Lord have mercy.
Tongue twister.
Y'all have a good night. We'll see y'all next time. There we go.